Hello. I was browsing the YouTubes last night and I found this story and I started watching it. It's the story of the worst ferry disasters in South Korea, the Sewol ferry disaster or the Sewol ferry tragedy. Um, Watching that documentary about those guys really made me think about the country of South Korea. So the story, if you haven't, been paying attention, this happened way back in April 16th, 2014, and it's basically that time a lot of students they're going from Incheon to Jeju. You're gonna have to Google, those two locations, but they're going from Incheon to Jeju. So according to the documentary that I've watched, which is really incredible, basically at the end of the year, at the end of the school year, the students, the high school students, like about maybe 300, close to 300 of them, they all get together. They get on this ferry, and they go on this island. And this is like a tradition, At the end of each year, at the end of each school year, the students, they all gather together and they get on this ferry, and they go to Jeju. And the island, as described in the documentary, the island is like their own Hawaii, because the island was really beautiful. Like it had beautiful waterfalls and beautiful green scenery. Really gorgeous place. And I think that's why a lot of them go there every year. And on this ferry, it was not just them. It was not just the students. It was also, I think there was about maybe 16 other teachers, or 11 to 16 other teachers with the students. And again, on this ferry, it was not just them. There was other passengers, people that were not part of the school. You had families, and the ferry is not really designed for human passengers, but they still do it. This ferry company. The ferry is basically like a cargo ship. It's like a cargo ferry where it had a lot of room for cars, for trucks, because according to the documentary, the ferry would take the trucks and the other commercial vehicles to this island, to basically transport goods or whatever. And so on this ferry here, at the Sewol, it had a lot of trucks and a lot of cars. So on top of it having a lot of cars and a lot of trucks, it also had about 500 people, 500 human beings, and most of them were basically high school students. So in the beginning, these high school students, most of them were about 18 years old. They're having a good time. They're enjoying themselves, going to this island. They're all excited and stuff. And then for some stupid reason, according to the documentary, the person that was steering the boat, the person that was steering the ship, he basically turned the ship in a very sharp manner, and I guess it was too sharp for the boat, and the boat basically tilted one way, and basically it went like over 30 degrees tilt-wise. And when that happened, the cars and the trucks, everything basically shifted to one side. So the weight basically went to one side, and the ship started to tilt to one side, and it started taking in water. Now here's where the tragedy actually gets worse. So first of all, according to the documentary, the captains and the crew members, most of them were drunk. Most of them were drunk. That's basically what the documentary was claiming. And so they did not really understand what was going on, and they did not know how to prepare the passengers to basically leave the cabins, because a lot of the students were all on individual cabins. Some of these cabins had bunk beds, so you had like kids in bunk beds. It's almost like camping or whatever. But the stupid thing that the crew did was not. Well, they told the students to wear the life jackets, but they told the students to not leave the cabins. They told the students to stay in the cabins, don't leave the cabins, don't go anywhere, just stay in your cabins. And that was the big mistake, because that's how the students died. Like they basically suffocated and they drowned in the cabins because they did not leave, because for some reason these students, they believe in their authorities. They believed that the crew members knew what the heck they were doing, which they did not. The captain had no idea what the heck he was doing. And he was the first person to abandon the passengers. And he was the first person to abandon his boat. So when the rescuers came to start pulling people out, there was basically nobody. There was nobody on the deck on the top of the boat. There was nobody. There was no students. Nobody. There was just a few students maybe who were lucky to not be in the cabins, and they were rescued. The students were rescued, and these students were rescued by civilian civilian people with boats, because at that time the ferry the Coast Guard wasn't anywhere. The Navy, or they call it the South Korean Navy. So it was only like civilian people with boats doing the rescue. And the civilian people, they did most of the rescue. They rescued the most students. It was not the government. The government was incompetent. The government was corrupt, and the government basically made these kids lose their lives, which is so crazy. Watching this documentary, I cannot think about how corrupt that government is. I cannot believe how corrupt that president was. She was. I don't know her name. I know her. I don't want to pronounce her name because it's I don't want to disrespect. But she was basically found guilty, and she was impeached because she had no idea what the heck she was doing. And according to the documentary, the South Korean Navy had no idea how to do a rescue. They had no idea how to rescue kids from drowning, from a sinking boat. They don't know how to do that. And the families, the families of these students, they were being told the wrong information. They were being lied to for like years and years and years. I'm talking about years. After this documentary. This documentary is really amazing. Basically, the captain was found guilty, and he's rotting in jail right now, which is fantastic. But the sad thing is, there's about 304 dead students, and there's also dead teachers and crew members. But it's mostly the students. The students are like, these kids are like, they didn't even graduate from high school and they're already dead. And their families, are basically in pain, and they're still struggling with depression and stress. Some of them actually killed themselves, committed suicide and stuff like that. So this was the worst ferry disaster in South Korea, and it just showed how corrupt the government is, and it just showed how incompetent the government agencies are. According to the documentary, they disbanded the the Navy, the South Korean Navy, and it's just so crazy. They could have saved these kids if the president actually took the help that was being offered by the Americans. According to the documentary, there was an American destroyer around by, close by, like a big boat, like a big carrier, and that American boat could have saved everybody, because they had the knowledge and the expertise to save people from the water, to save people from a sinking boat. But because the president was corrupt and she had no idea what the heck she was doing, she did not take the help that was being offered by the Americans. And because of that, this president let all these innocent kids and teachers basically perish in the water for no reason. So, you know, if you're really interested, you should Google the Sewol Ferry tragedy from South Korea, and there's like a 23-minute documentary. I think it's done by ABC or one of those American news stations. It's so crazy that we live in a world today where you know, people are watching a tragedy happen, but they don't want to do anything. Like, it's just so crazy how incompetent these government workers were. You know, I would say all of them should be in prison. Every single one of them, every single person that did not do anything, they should be in prison, because they let these innocent kids die for no reason. You know, like, those kids should not have died. It's so sad, and I just have a completely new idea and thought of, you know, the whole society of South Korea, you know, and I hope, you know, the government that's running the country right now is not as corrupt as the other government. But I'm gonna stop the video here. Thank you for watching.